So put your hands together and give it up for Rico Pendejo.
You're my lawyer?
A lawyer with a corporate sponsorship? That's completely ridiculous. LegalEagle is sponsored by CuriosityStream and Nebula. Get 26% off using the link in the description. Hey LegalEagles, it's time to think like a lawyer because today we are analyzing Idiocracy, the movie that, if memory serves, is about the world's most average man who is cryogenically frozen and then wakes up hundreds of years later after the world has gotten much, much dumber.
You want us to put water on the crops?
Yes.
Water? Like out the toilet?
Which, of course, implicates all kinds of laws and regulations, including, I think, a trial. So it should be fun to compare real-life laws with the laws of the fake future after the world has gone down the toilet.
What the f? God damn, shit's changed in a year.
So, without further ado, let's dig in to Idiocracy.
Would you like another?
Extra big-ass fries.
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please
What?
come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My kids are starving.
This should help you calm down.
Well, I'm sure most corporations would love to be able to gas their customers if they're getting obstreperous like that. I think that that probably qualifies as a battery. Battery itself doesn't have to be the physical touching. It can often involve offensive contact. And if a regular customer would not be okay with being gassed with some sort of sedative, I think that probably qualifies. Carl's Jr. of the future, engaging in some questionable practices.
Welcome to Carl's Jr. Would you like to try our
Extra big-ass taco.
now with more?
Molecules.
Hey! Is this particular individual the unfit mother?
Me? No.
Okay, this particular individual is unscannable.
So, obviously, Luke Wilson is not an unfit mother, but I think that this does raise the question of when are the police actually allowed to arrest you? And under the Fourth Amendment, police are authorized to make an arrest so long as they have probable cause. And in legalese, we say probable cause must be based on specific articulable facts taken together with rational inferences from those other facts. So here, you cannot make a reasonable inference from a kiosk, an automated kiosk, a robot effectively, saying that Luke Wilson, obviously not an unfit mother, is an unfit mother. Here, not surprisingly, these police do not have probable cause to arrest Luke Wilson. But by the same token, most courts say that if police mistakenly arrest someone due to a misidentification, then there's no constitutional violation so long as that mistake was reasonable. So it's a question here whether the police were acting reasonably or not. Probably not. And as to the question of whether police can just tackle someone during an arrest, police are generally allowed to use reasonable force to restrain and arrest someone, assuming that they have probable cause to be able to arrest someone in the first place. But I, for one, find it completely unrealistic that any police officers in the United States would ever use unreasonable force to detain and then take someone into custody. That doesn't happen.
Wait a second. There's the other pod from the Army experiment. There was a girl, she was from the same experiment. Would you just stop?
That's enough of your bullshit,
You got
son.
Joe was arrested for not paying his hospital bill.
Okay, so Joe is arrested, obviously in a situation that's completely unreasonable. Then he's in the back of the squad car and they mace him for asking questions. Police, when they have someone in custody and they have someone that is resisting arrest or attacking an officer, are allowed to increase the force that they use to counter the resistance. But it's an unreasonable use of force to mace someone who is handcuffed and is not threatening the officers. But again, this is completely unrealistic. We never see police officers just indiscriminately using mace or pepper spray against people who are not resisting arrest or just going about their day exercising their First Amendment rights to freedom of expression.
Now, since y'all say you ain't got no money, we have proprietarily obtained for you one of them court-appointed lawyers.
Okay, so that is absolutely a real thing. There are court-appointed lawyers. They're called public defenders. There was actually a 1963 case called Gideon versus Wainwright that established the constitutional right to people who are accused of criminal acts who can't afford an attorney because it would be such an injustice to deny them an attorney to represent them in this criminal trial. Then the state can and should provide them with a public defender to at least provide some defense. Though we've seen in a lot of different situations where some states seemingly on purpose will underfund the public defender's office. We've seen allegations of that in Louisiana, where often the district attorney gets millions of dollars per year, but the public defender's office will get nothing, and they're not able to provide the defense that the accused are constitutionally entitled to.
So put your hands together and give it up for Rico Pendejo.
You're my lawyer?
A lawyer with a corporate sponsorship? That's completely ridiculous. LegalEagle is sponsored by CuriosityStream and Nebula. I mean, here the whole courtroom has various corporate logos completely plastered over everything. There's a flag that has a corporate logo. It appears to be funding the criminal justice system. Often people talk about Judge Judy or the TV shows that you see that have an actual real judge. It's actually a private arbitration where the contestants agree to be bound by the decision of Judge Judy or whoever is playing the judge, but it's still not a real courtroom. It would be completely ridiculous for the actual state courtroom to have corporate sponsorship. And you can imagine that there'd be all kinds of reasons why you wouldn't want private enterprise to interfere with the criminal justice system itself.
Prosecutor, why you think you done it?
Okay, number one, Your Honor. Just look at him.
I assume that this is some sort of opening statement here. You're not allowed to actually make an argument in opening statements. That's a common misconception. You're supposed to say what the evidence is going to show. Really seems like they're not going to enter any evidence. It just seems like they're gonna go with whatever the prosecutor says here.
We've got all this, like, evidence of how, like, this guy didn't even pay at the hospital. And I heard that he doesn't even have his tattoos.
Okay, I stand corrected. He is now saying that he has evidence that's going to show something. He skipped out on some sort of hospital bill. Why that would be a criminal issue, I'm not entirely sure. And then he lapses into hearsay, saying that he heard that he doesn't have the scannable tattoo. No idea why this would be the place where he'd rely on hearsay evidence, because he could just look at the wrist of the accused and find out whether he actually has the tattoo or not. Though, as we've talked a lot about on this channel, the exceptions to the hearsay rule really swallow the hearsay rule in general, so that usually if you have hearsay evidence, you can find a way to get it admissible into court. The way he has phrased it here, it might be the rare exception where that hearsay is not coming in, because there's lots of other kinds of evidence that would be better. It seems like in the future, the courts are not great.
I know, and I'm all, you gotta be shitting me. But check this out, man. Judge should be like, guilty. Peace.
Honestly, that is not the worst opening statement I've ever heard in my life.
Objection!
What are you objectifying on?
It's too late to object.
Okay. Your Honor, I object that this guy also broke my apartment to shit. Yeah. What? And you know what else? I object that he's not gonna have any money to pay me after he pays back all the money he stole from the hospital.
Okay, lots going on here. Lots wrong. First of all, if the public defender is a material witness to the case, then they'd be conflicted out. There's no way that they could represent this particular individual. And of course, they'd probably be called to the stand if they're actually ever going to ask for evidence to be submitted. On top of that, it is a big problem in both the criminal and civil justice system that a lot of people aren't able to afford the verdicts that are entered against them. That's being called judgment proof. The judgment is effectively invalid because they'll never be able to pay the things that they stole or are liable to somebody for. That's a big issue. But as a public defender, you're not allowed to raise that as a defense in the case itself. I mean, there's already a lot of stuff here that would qualify for a mistrial.
What are we doing here?
Okay, sir, we're engaged in procuring your tattoo.
Welcome to the Identity Processing Program of America. Please insert your forearm into the forearm receptacle. Thank you.
Okay, It should come as a surprise to absolutely no one that the government can't force you to get an ID, though there are plenty of situations where a government actor can force you to produce an identification that you already have if you have it on you. Though forcing you to get a tattoo on your body, almost certainly unconstitutional. Though there are certain instances where a government can force you to undergo certain bodily modifications if it's in the interest of health, safety, welfare, or the morals of society. And that sounds far-fetched and it sounds draconian, but we saw an example of that very recently when we've been talking about vaccines, because in the 1905 case of Jacobson versus Massachusetts, the Supreme Court ruled 7-2 that a mandatory vaccination law was a legitimate exercise of state power to protect public health and safety. In terms of the spectrum of what's allowable between a vaccination and a forced tattoo, maybe there's a big chasm between those two, and maybe they're not that far away. It sort of depends on the justification and the exercise and the reason for the exercise of the state's police power.
Yeah, I don't see you in here, so you're gonna have to stay in prison.
Could you check again? Because I was definitely in prison, okay? I got sat on my face and everything. Maybe check those files back there?
Okay, so the question here is, can you use deadly force against a convict who is attempting to escape? And the answer generally is yes. States like Florida give officers the legal right to use any force that they believe reasonably necessary to prevent the escape of an arrested person. And not a single state requires the use of deadly force as a last resort. Now, the American Bar Association has urged states to allow deadly force only when necessary to prevent an escape by a prisoner when the person is about to leave the enclosed area without authorization. And the ABA also recommends that the officers shout a verbal warning before attempting to shoot or use deadly force. But generally that's not required.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, stop, you're gonna get us caught.
Warning, warning. Compco has detected a dangerous fugitive in aisle 16,702.
Okay, so the question here is, can the state conduct basically warrantless surveillance of everyone? While that is certainly a constitutional controversy, under Section 702 of FISA, that does allow the NSA to collect billions of electronic communications, including those of Americans, and to use those communications in a criminal investigation, all without a warrant. And it seems that that authorization is alive and well in the world of Idiocracy, because that's how Joe has been caught. Is it a slippery slope? Will we continue down the path towards unauthorized or warrantless surveillance? Will we ever roll that back? I guess we'll find out. Fun.
Look, if you guys are taking me back to that jail, just go ahead and shoot me, because there's no way that... Ow! 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 Oh! Ow!
What?
Oh! Ow!
Jeez.
Ow! Ow!
What?
Ow! Ow!
It's so unconstitutional, but at the same time, it's really, really funny. So we've already talked about it being improper to mace someone who is under police custody, who's not really posing any threat and fighting back. And repeated macings would similarly be unconstitutional, though there's a big issue in this country of not being able to get compensation from police officers who are going outside of the constitutional bounds. In theory, at least, the way that you would get compensation as someone who was a victim of police brutality is you would file a Section 1983 claim under federal law against the police department. But there are all kinds of reasons, including qualified immunity, as to why those police officers can often escape any kind of responsibility. So it certainly seems like the doctrine of qualified immunity is alive and well in the Idiocracy world, because I doubt these police officers are going to face any kind of liability for the repeated macing of their captive.
The results of Joe's IQ test had caught the attention of the highest levels of government.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm the smartest guy in the world? Says who?
The IQ test you took in prison. You got the highest score in history. Brought to you by Carl's Jr.
Yeah, dumbass. You've been smarter than President Camacho. That's how come he's making you Secretary of Interior.
Okay, so who are you?
I'm the Secretary of Energy.
We won a contest, got to be a cabinet member.
What, a wildly unqualified cabinet member in the White House? That would never happen.
I'm the Secretary of State. Brought to you by Carl's Jr.
Why do you keep saying that?
Because they pay me every time I do. It's a really good way to make money. You're so smart, why don't you know that? Motherfucker.
Corporate influence of a member of the cabinet in the White House? That would never happen.
And that's Secretary of Education.
It's kind of stupid, but President Camacho's stepbrother still does a pretty good job, eh?
Straight up nepotism amongst the advisors to the president?
I can say that in the White House, I work with some phenomenal people.
That would never happen.
Dwayne Elizondo Camacho, 5-time Ultimate SmackDown champion, porn superstar, and President of the United States, had called a special summit.
A president who used to be on professional wrestling.
Hey, look at this! Donald Trump! Donald Trump taking down Mr. Oh, my God!
A president who has sex with porn stars.
I laid there and prayed for death.
Is this a documentary? Did this movie predict the future? What am I seeing right now?
President Camacho stood before the world and promised everyone that Joe would solve all their problems. He would not only end the Dust Bowl and heal the economy, but he would cure acne and car sickness as well.
A president who doesn't know what they're doing and makes vague promises that they can't possibly deliver?
I give you my word.
That would never happen.
He tried taking water from toilets, but its secretary not sure who finds himself in the toilet now. And as history pulls down its pants and prepares to lower its ass on Not Sure's head, it will be Daddy Justice who will be crapping on him this time.
We now go live to Violence Channel correspondent for Micah Davis at the Extreme Court with highlights.
I mean, this is completely unrealistic because Fox News appears to actually be reporting the news. That doesn't seem realistic at all.
Thank you, Velveeta. Well, it started off boring and slow, with Not Sure trying to bullshit everyone with a bunch of smart talk. Blah, 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 you gotta believe me. That part of the trial sucked.
The Supreme Court does not do trials. Though, interestingly, the Supreme Court still does not allow cameras inside, so it would have to be an artist's depiction. It would have to be an artist's depiction to portray what's going on.
But then the Chief J just went off. He said, man, whatever.
I mean, that's kind of awesome, you have to admit.
The guy's guilty as we all know that, and he sentences us to 1 night of rehabilitation.
I don't even know anymore.
This guy just got his ass applauded.
Yeah, so it used to be back in the day that if you wanted to pardon someone, there was an entire department at the White House that was responsible for reviewing the file and making sure only people who deserved the pardons would receive them if they made the request. Though in recent days, it appears that a certain US president has completely circumvented that process entirely and just decided to pardon whoever they want. So this actually, surprisingly, not far-fetched.
And so, after serving a short term as vice president, Joe was elected the President of America.
A former vice president who was elected to become president of the United States? Hasn't happened yet, but maybe someday it will. Okay, now it's time to give Idiocracy a grade for legal realism. This 2006 movie posits a world where lawyers have corporate sponsorships, where the police are going around indiscriminately macing and pepper spraying people who aren't resisting arrest. It posits a White House that has filled the advisors with people who are wildly unqualified, who got the job through sheer nepotism. A president who used to be on professional wrestling and had sex with porn stars and who cares more about his personal image than actually running the country. So obviously this movie is completely unrealistic for 2006. For 2020, I give it an A+.
That's what I thought.
Now, we may be devolving into an idiocracy, but there's still one place where you can get smart, thoughtful content. It's called Nebula, and it's where I put an extended cut of this video, ad-free, with bloopers. And I put in some extra reactions about undercover cops and the army getting friendly with a character named Upgrade. We're dealing with an army officer for absolutely no reason whatsoever getting the consent of a criminal pimp here, but that's a phrase I never thought I'd be saying. Because sometimes even legal issues are too hot for YouTube, because YouTube's algorithm can be really capricious. Which is why my creator friends and I teamed up to build our own platform where creators don't need to worry about demonetization or the dreaded algorithm. It's called Nebula, and we're thrilled to be partnering with CuriosityStream. Nebula is a place where creators can do what they do best. Create. It's a place where we both house our content ad-free and also experiment with original content in new series that probably wouldn't work on YouTube. In fact, if you liked this video, then you'll love what's on Nebula, because not only are my videos ad-free, but for almost all the videos I put up on Nebula, they have an extended discussion or bloopers or some extra content. And they also release early before the YouTube version does. Nebula features lots of YouTube's top educationalist creators like Lindsay Ellis, Thomas Frank, and Charles the Coconut with his sidekick, Patrick Willems. We also get to collaborate in ways that wouldn't work on YouTube, like Tom Scott's amazing game show Money, where he puts a bunch of famous YouTubers against each other in psychological experiments where they can work together or profit individually. It is ridiculously good. So what does this have to do with CuriosityStream? Well, as the go-to source for the best documentaries on the internet, they love educational content and educational creators. And we worked out a deal where if you sign up for CuriosityStream with a link in the description, you'll also get a Nebula subscription for free. And to be clear, that Nebula subscription is not a trial. It's free for as long as you're a CuriosityStream member. And for a limited time, CuriosityStream is offering 26% off of all of their annual plans. That's less than $15 per year for both CuriosityStream and Nebula. And because I'm a lawyer, I made sure that 26% off is by contract the best deal you'll find anywhere. And since we've got to stay inside anyway, we might as well watch CuriosityStream's awesome documentaries, or just watch Tom Scott torture your favorite YouTubers on Nebula. So if you click on the link in the description, you'll get both CuriosityStream and Nebula for 26% off. Or you can go to curiositystream.com/LegalEagle. It's a great way to support this channel and educational content directly for just $14.79 per year. So just click on the link in the description or go to curiositystream.com/LegalEagle. Plus, clicking on that link really helps out this channel. So, do you agree with my grade for Idiocracy? Did it really predict the future? It really kind of seems like it. Leave your objections in the comments and check out this playlist over here with all of my other reactions, including my reaction to My Cousin Vinny and Suits and all the other legal procedurals out there. So, click on this playlist and I'll see you in court.